Directing panels of operation streamlines and redirect signals application system puts 12 cycle line settings. It's all the application inside a lot of the communication system. You tracking your communication setting is ground lines. It's really understand the zero gravity line rotation interference, how to really get into correlation setting to your keyboards. Your computer mainframe line interference has to really understand the clock line settings and direct signal its application system, right? So we all have to understand how to direct and redirect and redirect. That's what you're working with every single time your position location you go through the line lines, okay? So it's a two-atom rotation line surface, one going one way, one going the other way. When they come together, it's it, they expand, but they stay together. So what that does is it comes to an expansion lines. In that line position location comes into implosion, not explosion, and implosion. So it center lines and a position location across lines, and it puts position locations of mold. The center position location comes a magnetic line set location of center positions, and then it creates its anomalies around its space in between its set locations. So the highest formation line settings, once it gets in a rotation spin of its clock lines, it knows it's 24 grounds, it knows it's 48 windows, it's 72 computer lines, and everything through its 144, which is its crystal grid in set locations. All right. So you really have to understand the formation line setting. So when you get those atoms together, they merge into one. All right. It's like blue, 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 blue. And here comes another one. Blue, 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 blue. They come together, right? And they get in the circulation rotation. Find the patterns, find the recognition, find the time sequence, find the direct signal, trying to find the flow direction line calculation setting. So it's like two fishes swimming in the same pond, trying to find the force of continuing line setting in the same direct location system. Okay? The formation has to be in the same stream. So when you're looking at ocean, it has a wave. It goes this way, goes that way, and it comes in, goes out. So you have to really understand the geometric of its operation, of its structure, of what it's doing, because it's calling out to you. So it has a voice line, has a grid line, has a pattern line. It really has to understand you at provision locations because it's inside of you, which is connected to your elements of set locations. You have to learn how to use the connections to your settings. When you come into your crop circles, you come into your pyramid line rotations, you come into your ground lines, you come into your operation service lines of zero gravity, you come into one grounds, you come into two, which is all calculated line position locations to your perimeters and parameters. Then you come into all set location settings to your Fibonacci, 4 lines of solar generation lines, 5 lines of the heart, 6 lines of the throat, 7 lines of theta, 8 lines of infinity, 9 lines of solar star and set location energy wash, 10 position locations is your calculation of your families, 11 is your solar system, and 12 is your divine. You should know that right away without even thinking. Without even thinking. That is the foundation location of your DNA at 12. Okay? So getting into that system is trying to understand how to use it in all ways and plateau. And like I said, you really have to understand how to use your clocks. So that's what we're going to get in today, line interference. 12 cycle line, center line calculation setting, because you guys are now coming into your perception lines of phenomenal line rotation interference in set location lines of box triangulation line interference, box triangulation line interference, location of 2 positive line interference, 2 neg line rotation settings, and 3 track communications of 3 positive line center location settings, and a 3 window line rotation interference, and set location high center interference, into 12 line signatures and position locations of XT1000 line and line rotations in track communication. Line directs a high interference of 24 signals in position location of 48 line stream location settings and direct location of 72 computer operation locations into 144 grid line center line rotation in circulation. Not by equation. So it's all calculated and modified how you see your settings, right? I always say that in position locations, right? Because it puts you in a classification, 2 set locations or travel settings. So in that direct signal line interference, we come into the bracket surface lines because you guys now are in position locations of 89. Okay? You're in 88 yesterday line stream, now you're in 89 phenomenal line rotation. So we take the 89 settings, equal line calculations of box, triangulations, box position locations, triangulations, box position locations, triangulations, and 3 set locations. Okay? Now, in the single line and line rotation interference, to travel calculate stream locations, we change the box lines. Single line rotations, singularity line graph lines, singularity line interference to travel communications. Now, in that set location lines, the 8 comes in position triangulations, the 9 becomes 8 location settings into triangulation line setting. Direct signal line conditions the box lines, triangulates its line center, box line triangulates the line center, but across the stream in set location of travels. Now, in direct signal line interference line calculation setting, you have 0 lines of operation in panel communication setting in solar system location. Now, in that direct signal line interference, we have a correlation setting direct signal to your set location system in track communications to your pyramid line setting in 12 signature line streams and set locations of circulation rotation lines of center position location operation to its set location. Now, in that system, line and line rotation, we come into the elixirs in 3 lines, calculations on position of travel line settings. Directing lines, panels, direction of time sequence, puts position location of the sun in the opposite sunlight calculations in travel, and line direct line setting and operation surface in set locations. Very powerful in set location. Now, directing line, center line conditions, we have the half line, which is a half pi correlation setting to the moon. Moon shifts lines, streamlines, and set location of travel lines, vortex location settings into 12 foundation graph lines of stream locations in position. Okay, to set locations. Okay, done by equation. All right, so in that set line and high interference, we change the travel communication settings. Now to redirect signal location setting interference, we put position location of travels. So the 0 line operation surface comes in now correlation setting in center position, right? Travel calculation lines, graph line stream locations. Puts a higher levels of metric stream locations of center, graph line center, and center position locations of operation. Now in that same line comes into the line, center line condition your rainbow stream, redirect signal location to its intelligence of face recognition. Okay. Now, in the face recognition line center location, it travels line settings in a 45-degree angle and 12 signals and high center interference and set location of parameters in set location of travel settings. Now, this directs line center location to center lines, high calculation streamlines, and center position location of operation. The operation line signals high center location is the ground lines, high calculation setting, indirect signals into 3 waving panels at 3 line settings and 0 line operation of new crop circle line connection setting in direct positions. Now, in that direct line center, we come into the triangulation line center location of 3, and line center calculation of 6, and 9 in center position of travel. Direct line center line interference, we take the line center location, 9 equals lines of 12, line center location of 12, 12 lines of south, and 12 lines of north. Set the diamond core line and resistor calculation streamline, calculation streamline set location of travel lines, puts position locations of patterns and rotation surface and travel communications. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and set line condition high system of time capacitor. Travel lines and signature lines and stream location setting and direct signal and set locations. Okay. All right. So that's going to travel out and set line side interference. All right. Gone, but still there. Okay. So we come back and signal in position of travel calculations. Okay. Now going through the pyramid line streamlines, the rotation spin line sets graph line stream locations. This changes all communication settings in 12 line signatures, 12 line patterns, and set location of settings in all positions of operation. Okay, done by equation. Now, in that signature line streams, because you guys are an 89 line valve, now 89 line valve has a 2 line indication line rotation surface. So we take the 8 channels of operation lines, center position locations of its infinity, rotates its surface location system through its divine set locations. See the center position? All right. So the 8 signature lines, we colorate their line center location of the box, coloration line center location of center, coloration line center location of grounds, and set position of travel communications. Directing lines of triangulation, set of position locations in travel settings, 3-point settings and high travel communications, and set location of travel settings. Directing signals, lines of panel correlation setting, direct signals across the streamline or rotations into a chessboard of set location. Now, directing line centers a graph line stream to change the coloration path that redirects the signal location settings. Okay, so like playing hopscotch. 3 line center line rotation interference and set location system to the bullseye of its X line setting in travel communications in XD 1000 line stream and set locations. Done by equation. Okay. All right, so that's going to travel out line setting. Gone, but still there. So how are we doing through all communication in a system? All right. So getting your upgrades and mass lines, it's very powerful what you guys are coming into now, position and track lines. Your avatar is changing. What it's changing the energetic system. It's changing the volumes. It's changing vast. It's changing, it's coming into its own vacuum. A vacuum, you already know what that is. It cleans things up. sucks things in, right? So you can really understand the calculation setting to the vortices, the lights of your communication system. So when you're in the ground lines and you're doing a video in set locations and you press record lines, you can use a vacuum setting in set location system and lock yourself in, and everybody else won't hear anything in the set location system. You are in position location the center lines, so everything will be blocked out. Okay, so that's sucking yourself in, which is a higher information location to its avatar line setting. So it's all about understanding that there's no background sound. Okay, the sound barriers changes communication, your timelines, time frequency, time stream. That puts position location your voice line grids and sucks everything in a set location system. So it's a vacuum, right? That just comes in that line setting. So it's really powerful when you come into that set location system. Your avatar is changing the streamlines. It's changing the energetic patterns. It's changing your holographic structure. It's changing all calculated modifications to its own design line setting to higher lines of higher volume and VAS of its equation through its formula. Now that formula is changing all communication setting and direct signals because the position locations is the panel's operation location setting. So we all have to direct the signals into clock lines and position locations in 2 lines and set location of all lines into 3 set location settings. Setting correlations of box, setting correlations of triangulation line setting and set locations. Signal lines of high center interference. Triangulation line sets position location of the sun. Sun communicates in the triangulation line sets and position location of higher line setting. Rotates the several locations of box line and communication setting, travel calculation line and position location of 4 lines of direct signals. Directing signal lines, panel communications into 3 boxes set locations. Travel signal line and rotations comes into plateaus of platforms of communication setting and direct signals in set location of travel settings. High calculation modification lines. So we take the box line and circle line rotations to the moon, setting communication of kaleidoscope, line rotation surface, and triangle line interference to another angle of set location of travel lines and set location of settings. Directing line signature patterns, line interference, sets direct signal location system in position locations on a line setting. So it's like looking like through binoculars and 3 lines and 3-track communication setting of set rotations. Now in that direct signal line interference, we set up the 0 line ground lines, operation server location system, into position location of power lines and set location of the opposite lines, and 3 set line travel calculation setting into position locations to its orb of communication setting into a Hubble of set location line setting of an energetic line stream and a dome in center lines and communication setting and direct signal of its operation system. Okay, done by equation. So it's all about the hologram line stream. It's all about connecting high center interference where the actual avatar, your set location system, comes into its own structure of its own design. Okay, so you really have to understand the grounds, the powers, the applications of its own engineer skills, location of structure lines into position location to its architect. You guys are an architect. You have to learn how to use it through a holograph line inside location of travel communications. Set location, all right? Okay, so that's travel line setting. Everything's a formula of equation line setting interference. Directing signal, set location of your systems. Okay, calculation modification line, stream interference. Laurie, how you doing? Calculation stream lines. All lines, calculation captain, gypsy, position track lines, high interference, position location all levels. So in that setting, high interference, let's light up the divine particle switch setting into 12. Yeah. It's all set up position location line setting. So we take the 12 lines, and the 12 lines, and the 12 lines and line interference, right? So this is where it gets complicated. Now we're going to 12 signature lines, signal lines of box, and set position travels. Box line, center line conditions of pi position of its travel communications. Pi directs line centers of pi position line conditions of north, and position of south, calculation of east, and positions of west. Now pi line center comes in all position locations to its clock line, high center interference. Pi direct signal locations all around the system to its location. Okay. Now, so you don't get confused, all number line, sequence line interference, all I'm doing is setting correlation setting in directions to its locations. There's the ear line setting. Now the rotates and spins lines of 3-track communications, directed signals, coming to line, center line, position locations to its structure of its communication. All right. Now, a directing line signal, you have to understand the phase direction of time sequence. Puts position locations, clock lines of 12 lines, center line communications into a line setting, into 12 measure of set location of travel settings. Okay, so you do everything inside through space and time through its set location inside position. Okay, So it's always in a box frame. You guys have to get into that set location in your system of travel settings to face recognition. So the 12 signature lines cover high calculation settings. So with 3 pies of indicators, setting location triangulations, puts positions of panel lines, streamline calculation setting, and line communications into your pyramids of activation, right? The top line signal. Now, directing line setting, one lines, pyramid line, rotation, surface, and ground lines. Operation line settings come in position locations to its higher set location line setting. Now, this directs line set location setting in a 3 set location line direct system. So you got panels line rotations, 2 line track lines and high center interference, 2 pyramids line center locations, and 3 in the center. 3 line center line interference. So we take the 12, 12, 12, and 12 line setting in position locations, comes into a position location of a stargate and line setting, line in rotations, and set position of travel calculation streamline of set locations. Okay? Now, in that direct signal, we change the circle line rotation surface. Now, the surface is extremely important because it changes the line calculation setting to your atom, a circulation rotation center, and redirects signals to its molecule structure lines of communication setting and direct signal as applications. Okay? That by equation. All right? So in that lines, we had another frame line rotation, center line, set line communication settings, all levels of travel communications, in set location of travels. Now, in that direct center locations, you're always working with the grounds, the powers, and the adversaries. Always. Always, always, always. So in that lines, that's going to travel out in set position location. So you're working with this, this, and this. Okay? Understanding this is understanding this, is understanding this, is understanding this, in set locations. That's all it is. You're in the center operation lines in position of your own space in between. Okay? So you have to really understand how it's set location setting and direct signal set location of its system and how to use its through location system. Travel calculation scan lines into circle line rotation center and center communication to its crop circle location settings. Now, directing signals, unified high line interference, left line, near line rotation interference, Vega communication setting, and communication line streamlines set location of travel lines in rotation surface. Now, in that rotation surface, we change the circle line rotation, directing signals, lines, panel communication setting, and center operation. Now, that position location changes the magnetic line that changes communication center of operation of atmospheres. The atmosphere line communication system travels lines in position location to its orb and line rotation to its probe, and center communication setting to its energy line stream, in set location near atom line, rotation surface, and circulation to its system. Okay? That's my equation. So we all have to understand how this all works in formation to your system. It's just location, right? All right. See? See the light? See? You can't even see the ground. Look. You can't see the ground. All right? So I'm in my own Hubble. I'm in my own teleportation unit. I'm always in set location of structure. And that's how you have to see yourself as an inner child. See? See how it goes right through? See? Look at that. More and more. See? You can see it. You can actually see right through my body. So in that direct signal, you formate your self-line center of a structure design. Use the hologram line set location system of calculations to its own setting. So really get into the set locations to its image, to its vision, to all line center of its structure. Okay? So really get into the map sequence of rooms. Get into coordinate line, center line, the chronological location systems of rooms, which is your own architect of design. When an architect does a house, he does rooms. This is the bathroom, this is the living room, this is the kitchen. Right? That's what it is. So you take your residence and turn it into a holographic line of communications. And then you actually see yourself going through translucent line communication. See? Right through. Okay? So there's always going to be lights, shades, and shadows. Okay? Through your design. You really have to understand how to use the projections. Okay? Through your own geometric operation. Okay? Because your avatar is understanding structure of its communication and travel settings. Right? Okay, that's going to travel out. Now, the formula equation line interference, this is where we come into the calculations of your quantum lines. Now, quantum line rotation center directs its signals, directing signal lines of panel communication setting over its all correlations of channels in your 12 signature panel lines a calculation location system, and a clock line setting in direct signals, and 3 set location settings in travel communication. Okay. Now, direct line signal. So what you're doing is you're creating a spherical sphere and set locations and line centers of a six lines rotation system. See the 6? And set calculations into the 9 and set location of travel. So it finds its position location settings in set location of travel locations, right? 6 and 9, which becomes an 8. Okay. That's what it is. You put 6 and 9 in closer line stream interference, it becomes infinity 8 circle. Indirect signal and set locations. Okay. So as it's spinning, what is it doing? What is it doing through line position? It's changing the holographic of its design. High calculation line interference and high travel calculation your data box, data streams, or DIN calculation line interference and position locations, your Omni highway line center location of 4 metric stream locations, or lines of 3 in position location of 2, and line center locations in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in set location setting in direct signal. It's very powerful when you set location your settings and directions. So in that system location comes a plasma line in rotation settings, securities, perimeters, and parameter line rotation to its system locations. Now in that direct signal line in rotations, it comes in as circulation rotation in set locations. Now once it comes into circulation line interference, I'm showing you exactly when you go faster in set location your avatar has to understand the geometric location of sound. Okay. Once it understands the sound and understands the geometric location of its position location of its rhythm, that sets position location to its tone, that sets line calculation setting. When you go in your Schumann resonance of your line calculation stream locations, you're coming into megahertz, megawatts, mega joints, calculation strength. You can come into all calculations of gigawatts or set location in your system. So you have to really understand the set location to its music, a set location setting. So it's all about directing line, center line interference, a graphical line and rotation setting, directing line, center line calculation, stream locations, particle stream and line rotation positions, or anything of that set locations, so travel settings. So what you get in that set line interference, the actual cloud itself and line rotation setting of its Gaussian line set locations sets a core line in set location of travel lines. Okay. So it's a set position location of travel line setting in high direct signal as a location of travel set. Now, in that direct signal line interference, we change the correlation settings and directions in circulation, right? Changes the direct location of circulations and directions, right? So the faster it goes, the more it's creating its holographic design. See? It's creating a holographic design. It's creating a holographic design, okay? So that's what it is. It's bringing 2 lines of atoms together to create the holographic of its structure, of its design, guys, of triangulation. Okay, that's set location setting. Okay, so it's all about understanding really how to put the letters, numbers, shapes in together. When I was in the Mexican school line streamline, this is what I did in set location system. Get into correlation line, center line interference of 0 into 1 into 2. All right, 0, 1, and 2 is in there, right? And then you go into communications of 3. There's 3, right? See? Whoa, what are we connecting there? 0, 1, 2, 3, right? Then you get positions of 4, but you keep it in the center. You don't go out line. So you got to get and stay. You got to stay within the lines. 5, 6, 7, and 8. There it is, right there. 0 to 8 is right in that little circle. The reason why I want you guys to stay in the line, okay? It's like when you're coloring a design. You don't go out. You stay within. You get in a coloration line. You don't go like this. You stay within the frame. You stay within the picture frame. You stay within the color of design. Okay? So it's very important you understand how to come into that set location system when you're doing anything through coloration. Everything is in its own frame, see? But it comes in lights, shades, and shadows. See? Everything is in triangulation. See that? See that triangulation? Lights, shades, and shadows of a triangulation right there. You see the triangulation, right? Everything produces its own sound. Everything produces its own setting. Everything produces its own operation of its own intelligence, of its own design. Okay? That's what you guys have to come to a verification to its system locations. Getting confirmation to that set location system, put your all calculation modification in your settings, especially when you come into your clocking system of location, your system of space and time through pi. Okay? So in that redirect signal, we come in this set locations and settings, right? In set locations. So everything that you see, look at that, it's amazing, right through me. It's incredible. Split it in position, okay? Timeline, center line interference, a 24 line measure, 24 calculation streamlines. Now in that set lines, if you know 24 o'clock, you can use a 13 line stream. Then you go line center line connections of 14 and setting position locations into 15 and 16 is at the bottom set locations, right? But you go around in a circle, but it's a pie. So it correlates as the line center location of 12 pieces of a pie. So you split the slices and set line communication of travel settings. So then you come into 16, and then you come into all levels of 17, and you come into 18, you come into 19, you come into 20, you come into 21, and you come into 22, and you come into 23 and 24, all through pi, right? So it's all directing signal line interference. So it's about putting the letters, numbers, shapes, and center in rotation to a system to this location that creates a clock line setting, a rotation surface, and set locations. Now, once you get into that position locations, you change the pi direct signal, okay? Sets communication to higher levels of high calculations of tone, in sound of barriers, and set location line setting and travel communications. Now, in that signal line interference, it's really powerful because you set the light signature line streams in position location holographic line, sending direct signals and set location setting to higher line communications in the line directions to your sun of operation. Okay? So it's really interesting when you understand, you see light, everything has a clock, but you got to bring it in. Okay? You have to bring it in. That's the only way you can understand structure. See, it's going right through here. See, laser. See, laser, 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 right? It's reflection, right? But it's changing the activation stream. It's changing the directions, right? Every second, every minute, every hour, okay? So the frame indicator line rotation interference is position of frame lines. Now the frame lines has a box line rotation surface. That's position location 2 lines. There's 2 frames, right? And you got the position locations of the person that's in the center. Okay, this is the person in frame. Okay, so it's all about understanding how to get in position track lines, and then you're working with the pixelation line streams, okay, in your TV reception line setting. And this is what it looks like through your TV locations. All right, so the whole idea is to stay within the line, colorate the line stream locations, and create a holographic line of its engineered skill lines. Set up formation line stream location system. So the higher you go through calculation line setting, you can actually create the formation locations to its line setting, to its projections, to its film strip of its design, of its calculation setting and calculation system. Okay? So it's interesting how to stay in the line setting. This is where you come into formation locations. So now you're seeing between the space in between of its design. Okay? All through pixelation. Pixelation of corner lines. Little microscopic dots lines, bioptic line centers, bioscopic location system. Travel lines of communication setting, direct signals location your settings, or regular location setting programs. So it's all about directing line settings, zero line rotation gravity lines, center position location operation center line interference into your antennas of communication to a setting. Now in direct signal, travel communications, right? So it's electrical line stream and line rotation interference, so box line in the position location of a circuit valve that sets like communication setting, direct signals, travel calculation setting. Each box line rotation surface travels line signature streamlines in position location to its line center location of a TV box lines at high calculation stream line in set position of travel calculation stream location to its system. All through TV. Okay? But you have to stay in the line. Okay? Do you see this out of frame? No, but you see my hand go right through it. Right? You can actually see it goes right through it. See? Isn't that amazing? So we all have to understand how this all works of its design, because that's what the avatar is doing, is creating its own travel line set location setting so it can understand more levels of its memory of set locations. But staying in the lacing lines of frames, you start to see what's in this space in between. Okay? So It's very important to understand these things, especially when you come into lacing lines of frames. So framing 1, framing 2, framing 3, but you have 12 frames, which is your foundation graph line. Now you can use that through your T receptor through your remote. Change position of your remote. And you got channel stream locations, indicate line interference. So you got position locations, line setting 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And you get a face graph screen location to a system. Okay? So it's understanding how to use it inside location and mainframe line settings because it travels out inside location and setting. Okay? Everything travels to locations. So when you get at line interference, you come into echo line chambers, sending lines of 3, lines of 4, or 5, or 6 location of 12 set location travel lines, 7 high position gauge sonars, and 4 direct signals in set location of travel settings, and all calculates modification to its system. Okay? So it sets out tone lines. In that direct sending the line interference, the actual hologram structure, okay, becomes its holographic in position locations. Okay? What's above is below in set locations. Okay? But see, the thing is, if you put this on a table, it's looking like this now. Okay? It's looking like that. So it's the actual table that's in the center of all operation to its set location, to its system of travel calculations in position of its operation. Okay? So we all have to understand how to see yourself through a hologram line setting. It's all holographic locations, so one line set location, a stream. So you get 2 atom lines, one going this way, and the other one going this way location to a system. Travel sending this way, and position location to travel sending this way, and location of travel settings. Directing signal lines in high position of 2-point system location of travel settings and directions. So one's going this way, and the other one's going this way. So what happens when they come together in position locations? They create the 6 and they create the 9 of set location of travel sets. Okay? So it creates a line communications to its setting of a seed pod, direction of time sequence in all calculation setting, and structure of its own design line connection setting to its avatar position location to its system. Okay? So that's 2 optical lens, 2 position locations to your eye scepter line rotations, comes into its intelligence and line communication to its settings. There's the intelligence and set locations. Okay? I'm just showing you what it is in all formation location when you understand the intelligence of set location. That's intelligence. So, really understand how this all works for you is inside. So once you realize that your body of consciousness is nothing but a holographic line system, then you understand how to use the rotation surface location of foundation graph lines of 12. Right? Because the team now is in its own divinity of its own divine. You have to learn how to use it through your immortalities. Immortality is understanding the correlation setting and how it directs the locations of acceleration line setting. It's all calculated and modified through its intelligence of its own face recognition. Through 6 and 9. Okay? So when you put the 6 and 9 together, what do you create? You create the infinity 8 of set location. So you're creating the line setting of your own space-time anomaly of its paradox, paradigm, polar shift, polarity shifts, and all calculation to its system location of its universe. Right? You can create another universe. You can create another galaxy. Right? Through letters, numbers, shapes, and symbol, all through a holographic stream in set locations into its system. But it's very powerful when you see set locations in its settings. All right. Face recognition is everything. And you guys are going to see more faces now through its intelligence because it's all calculated to modify how you see line connection setting to its face recognition line setting that comes into the center of location of its operation system to its location line setting and direct signal of operation center line in the circle location. Right? So that's the calculation setting in set position. Okay? So it's working from inside out. Okay? So in that set line calculation setting, it expands out once you understand the face recognition location to its intelligent line system in travel calculations. Okay? Now in that direct signal line interference, you always have the 0 grounds. Always have to have that because that's the grounds of you in position location Earth. So the Earth is center communication to its system, to its all calculation line setting and directions in set position. Okay? For a power file, you can modify it to its line communication setting. So you're always working with the H line setting, which is your heart direction of time. Split the system locations. There it is. There's the H, right? So it's all about understanding how to set up platforms. Now we got the ground line, center line interference. We changed the correlation setting, direct signals. Make sure you have 2 panels on both side line calculation setting of space and time and provision to its location. It gets complicated now. So what the avatar is doing is creating its own holographic world of set location, of its own design, through its chakra system. I just showed you what you can do when you put 0 to 8 all together, right? Without even questioning what you're doing in set location setting. There's no thinking process in that position location of systems. And so you come in this position line connections, you merge them into one, becomes infinity 8 rotation center and position of travel calculation to its own karma cycle of rotation surface and space anomaly, right? So in that center line interference, this changes its direct location system of a higher levels of a model in correlation. Okay. It changes the plateau, it changes the clocks, it changes the seconds, it changes the minutes, it changes the hours and set location of travel settings and set locations. Okay. See the intelligence, see the eye lines? See that in the center position? Intelligence, face recognition. Okay. To go beyond is not just to see beyond, but to understand why you're going beyond. So it's mostly important to understand that you're seeing through a wall. You're not looking at a wall, you're looking through the wall, right? And once you understand all the mechanism line settings of what the wall is, it's nothing but a portal of communication. Same with the mirror. This is the wall. This is you. That's you, right? Looking at the wall. That's you looking at the wall, right? Scan the center. Space in between. Okay? Ooh, intelligence. There's the intelligence right there. It's the center of all operation. It doesn't matter wherever you point, but if you get a direct signal through energy line, it's always in the center of communication of space in between. So when that's set location system, this is where it comes in line setting. So it actually comes out and communicates with you and set location of your travels. Okay, now you communicate with its intelligence of its wall. So it's trying to understand you through structure now. Are you in a holographic design or are you still in the physical adaptation? Okay. So this is mostly understanding what you're seeing through its calculation, through its reality of its own design. Okay, to set locations. All right. So when you get in that sign line interference, you automatically put your fields up, through a wall. You got to protect yourself, right? Comes over here, and if it is comfortable with you, it comes closer in your position location to its operation, right? And then it goes back in center, right? And set location line settings and position locations. In that set line interference, it disappears in set locations and travels somewhere else in position. I wiped it out and it wouldn't change position of track line. See, it disappears. So we all understand the second, minutes, the hour line, center location of intelligence because it all has its clock line. Has its 12, has its 24, 48, 72, and 144. Everything that you see in high calculation to its consciousness knows where it is in its own space of time. It's for you to figure these things out through you. Okay? Through your navigation of the mind. Okay? That's the only way you can understand anything in applications. All right, so track communications is always a bracket setting. Now, indirect signal, you have to really understand how to use the plateau communications and direct system communications. Change the correlations lines, pencil communications, high center interference, bracket communication line sends at 2 positions, right? Bracket of 2 communication lines, circles, line rotation, circle location of travels, right? Looks like brackets, but to me, it's something else. It's what you see through perception. That's how you come into acceleration where you are in your intelligence. So for me to understand me, the brackets have to understand me first. It's not me understanding the brackets. The brackets is already set. The brackets understand you first. Are you in balance with your system yet? Because it's already set up through its operation. Friendship and relationship and partnership with yourself first is crucial. Master yourself completely inside in all electrical system mainframe. And then you get in your telepathy and telekinesis to yourself, from yourself to everything through bracket. Right? So once the bracket understands you, it plays with you through its inner child and set locations. Okay? Inner child. This is you, inner child. Okay? So it's you communicating with you in set location. Yes. Finger point lines are 4-line directions. Different timelines, different stream locations. Baby, child, teenager, adult. You got to get bounced with that every single day. Why? Because it clocks the system. Baby, child, teenager, adult, BC, TA. Indirect signal line interference line calculates stream location system. Everything volumes its set line calculates setting indirect signal and set locations to its child of activation. Okay? Baby, child, teenager, adult is already in set line conditions. But the adults, this is how it works. This is the adult locations. Alphabetical line sending. Okay, so you got the baby, child, teenager, and you got the adult locations, right? BCTA, right? Now that's that location system. Understands the baby, does understand the adult. Confusing it through the teenager, and is a lot more to understand through calculations of its child. Right? So it has to understand all 4 signature lines of clock lines in set locations: 24, 48, 72, and 144. Right? That's how it works, the location system of travel settings. You understand? Baby, 24, grounds of clocking in center position. 48 is your window. Coming in line, setting line connections to your child of your set locations. Okay? Setting position, location, line, sending directions. Teenager. Okay? Very complicated. In set line conditions comes into 72 position line track lines. And adults comes all formation locations of the mind and calculation streamline, calculation setting, and set position locations of conscious location. Okay? So it's extremely wild when you understand the 24, 48, 72 through baby, child, teenager, and adult, right? The team needs to understand that, how that works, the all psychological line condition system, because it's a psychosis location in your systems, how you have to really understand how to balance this out every single day through emotion. And the reason why I say every single day is because you have to understand the timelines of your position, your thoughts through your calculation system, because you're connected to your energy waves. You're connected to your energy system. You're connected through your energy graph line communications. You're connected through your energy grid lines and voice grid location systems. You've got to get balanced with this, because you're dealing that every single day in set locations until you understand there's one day line setting in one location. So there's got to be the baby, child, teenager, adult, and all sig locations to identifications. Greetings. Consenting in that setting, high interference, puts in a better calculation streamline to its division, isn't it? Through activation. So that's what it's all about when it comes in position of track lines to its applications. Okay? Now you understand the position of track lines when it comes in also application of your clock lines. How you have to understand the 24 line settings, 48, 72, and 144. It's because it's calculated and modified through diamond line center interference and applications in your space in between. Right? Space in between. So you start with the center, right? Here is the center. This is intelligence that you have to communicate with. But to understand that, you have to understand you first, all through position of travel. Right? This is what you communicate with us. Right? So once you understand that, it communicates with you, it comes out. It comes out in 3 triangulation line settings. Okay? Isn't that amazing? So when you come to that set line interference, it wants to have fun. It wants to travel. It wants to understand you more through travel communication. So it's trying to show you what it can do through its own travel, through its moon. I showed you in graph line and set location of TikTok, where you saw the moon go by itself in triangulation. That's having fun with your moon setting in travel communications. And all set line calculation setting, indirect signal. 2 is set position location with setting. Okay? So all it is just a bunch of squiggling lines, but it's creating its own design through lights, shades, and shadows. Okay? So this is what you have to understand first, is the space in between. Okay? In that position locations, it gets much easier. Then it can travel wherever it wants. It can do whatever it wants as a location. There's the intelligence. See it? See the eyes, nose, lines, that's that location. So everything is in a phase direction of time sequence. Correlation line settings, circle line rotations, center interference, travel line center, high position location, and travel set locations. Okay? So we all understand how to use the triangulation lines of surface, indirect signal, the location of grounds, your powers, and the atmospheres. Okay? Off through triangulation. Okay? So you really have to get into the hologram structure lines in the mind now. Really get into that set locations. This is position locations, and you've got a holographic line setting that's inside location of your system. Through metric location settings and travel settings. Okay, that's inside you. So what that's doing is it's moving around the circulation. Okay? So calculate the line setting, line interference is your brainwave pattern. So setting direct signal line interference is there's your infinity line rotation surface above the system locations, right? So the center calculations comes in triangulation line position locations to your pyramid of activation. Okay? And that same line interference comes in line center to zero gravity line rotations, center direct signal and set location. Okay? And so you all have to understand how to use that. And then coming into center line interference, here's the location system, ground lines is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 location setting of your chakra set locations. Okay? So your chakras are set up in a formation of alliance. And that line center lines is signature from the stream location setting, creates its own portal communications of its direct location, of its own mind line rotation of its navigation system that travels on its own as a location to the system in position of space. Right? There it is. There's your solar systems of planets. Okay? So we all understand how this works for you, how to understand you more inside. Master you first, right? Especially when it comes in team lines and interference. You're getting your upgrades, it's fantastic. You're getting the line communication, more memory line set location to a system, but you have to understand the triangulation line connection to your solar system, the planets now. Okay? Because you guys are in your own divinity now, of your own divine. Okay? So in that line sequence, put specific locations in one line signature pattern, line rotation surface, and one line location. Whoa. That's just a line? No. It's what I said what it was. Okay? That's what it is. You see this, right? But it's created through this. And high center interference and travel communications. Right? So I'm just showing you how this is already done. But you just see the line. Right? So we have to go beyond. And to go beyond is to understand how to see the space in between of its design. Because it's the center of operation to your set location settings, and all direct signal locations to your center calculations of what? Your heart. Okay? See that? See the intelligence? See the eyes? See that? See it doesn't move? Because I don't want it to move. Usually it moves. So you are in control of everything in your positions. Once you understand that, things get a lot more easier for you in set location of settings and position. Okay? And then it comes back to you in a formation location of light and set location of travel, a set position. It's so easy to create a holographic line, guys. It's not complicated. See, the whole idea is for you guys to get into your own design line connection sets of set locations, right? So that's how it works. You guys are finally coming into your divine lines. You come into your holographic location system. You have to start co-creating a holographic reality of your set locations. Okay. So you're coming back into your memories. Yes. But you understand everything around you, you have to change. Right? You change the frequency. It changes the design. Right? So in direct signal line communication, sending direct signal, let's say you have a tree. There's a tree, right? Here's the ground lines, upper location circuits, sending travel communications, sending the ground lines. Now in that set locations, here's another tree communications, right? Here's another tree communication setting, right? So in that line interference, they're all connecting to each other in set location of setting and direct signal into electrical ground lines of rotation. They're all connecting with each other all at once. Here's a tree, here's a tree, here's a tree in 3 set locations, right? Now, understanding that the branches branch out and they communicate with each other through tether. You have tether communication setting, the stream location setting, direct signal through one position location to a system. All right. So it's really interesting what a tree formation line is to you in set location system. Okay, it's all kind of line interference location of watch. Like I said, the face watch line set location is direct signal in set locations, right? So if you look at it really, really close, you can actually see the design of what it is through the space in between. There's always space in between of everything through its intelligence, which is correlated setting direct location, which is its heart of design. Okay. So once you communicate with the center line, things get a lot more easier. You're scanning, you send it line positions, right? You communicate with it, right? It comes out and communicates with you in set locations. Okay? Pretty simple, right? Okay. So what did it create? It created a sail, right? See that? It created a sail for you to understand of what it just finished doing. Through the grounds of operation line setting, solar direct signal location system, and position of travel calculations. Okay? Everything creates its own travel of its own light, of its own color, of its own structure, of its own design through a hologram. And every time you're looking around, you're seeing everything that you need to see is perceiving everything of its intelligence. You ever notice when I'm doing TikTok videos and I'm doing this and I'm looking at that and say, okay, here's the fan communication line stream interference location, line set location that's sending the longitude, latitude, and line rotation center to its specific location attraction. Wow, where did it get all that information? I'm communicating with it. So you're having a conversation and you're getting information back and forth from each other. And if it wants to change the direction, back into information, right? So there's a lot of things you have to understand is connected to your settings. Really understand how to use the graph line calculation setting in direct signal location, your foundation location, your 12 set locations. Okay? So you're looking at its intelligence, okay, of what it's created on its own. It becomes its own structure. And once you see the center heart of everything, then you understand the intelligent location through systems. Okay? But that's what it is. Okay? Okay, so once you get in line settings, high set locations of what's below and what's above set location to its systems, comes in line signal. Okay? So we bracket communication line streams. We set direct set locations of lines of 0 and position locations of line settings of 89 and set location of travel settings. Now, lines of operation sets lines of pi and 3 set locations of settings. Direct and line setting line interference into over line. Routers, line interference, and position location, high setting, and track communication to a system and travel settings, a direction. Okay? Now it gets complicated. Now, getting in that signal, the moon comes in line signal in high position of travel lines in 3 set line calculations of 4 into 5 set location of graph line streams. crossing systems. Now that comes in line setting. We take the 0 line and ground lines as 0 line rotation, changes communication setting, direct signal, and set location of travels. Now it's extremely complicated, right? But it's a holographic design through its avatar through travel. So the avatar is basically understanding how to communicate, not just with its own system, but its other system of its intelligence of letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols. Okay? So really, guys, you need to understand how to get line center locations, how you put 8 in triangulation, how you put 9 in triangulation line system. Comes into location of a triangle. So in that system line inference, we put the 8 line rotation and we put the 9 line rotation in center position. Okay? That comes into a circulation line stream and direct signal of set locations of force of continuous line stream locations. Okay? Now in that symbolism, we change the graph lines. 0 lines comes in line center line conditions, all line center interference, indirect signals. To another solar sail, indirect signals. Let's go into 12 line signature patterns and rotation surface and one side locations. Okay. And then we go across line stream. You want to do an energy wash, you go to the other obstacle line rotation center and correlation setting, 12 line cell location system, and travel calculation streamlines locations. Okay. There's so many different ways to set up anything as a location line system, all through a graph. Right? It's amazing when you cross position location and signals as location and travel settings. You see the dome? You see the holographic stream? That's how the avatar indicates what it's doing. It's understanding the holographic world of its own system inside the mind adaptation of its sequence of set locations, guys. Okay? This is all presentation of an 8-9 line center line conditional phenomenon of a holographic line position locations to energetic dome lines of a cluster line rotation of a galaxy line of a circulation line rotation center line interference in bracket communication line setting and direct signals to its calculation to its operation. Okay. It's exciting. It's exciting when you understand what a holographic is in all positions. Okay. So everything that you do changes your realities right away through design. So when you get into digital layers is complicated. Goes this way, goes this way, goes this way, goes this way, right? So it's all about understanding how to use set position of travel lines and set location of travel set locations of design. It's all calculated modified. See, again, in position locations. So understanding that position location, you understand the ground lines of its rotation surface and set location of travel settings. Now, in that direct signal locations comes into this. Ground lines and calculation streamline, crosses signal interference location. There it is. There's the hologram. Okay. So we've got 2 panels of box lines, travel calculation stream locations, traveling lines in the opposite location system of travel settings. 3 box location setting directions. Okay. So when that's a line interference, if you want to change the image, the sun has to come in its direct signal of position location to its system. Okay. That's how you change the design. And the moon sets all the communication line settings in direct signal in set location setting in positions to a solar sail of calculation. And then it sets up the ground lines of operation surface and center positions to its operation calculations. Okay. And once you get into that positions, you come into this triangulation. Platform communication area standard 24, 48, 72, and 144. You can set up platforms of communication lines and you can go right through and travel calculation lines of platforms of communication setting into realism, into reality, a set location of set locations. You see how powerful it is? How you set up location of hologram settings? All through your clockings. It's incredible how these things are set up. Your reality is set up for you every time you change your thought. So on seconds lines and position of minutes of the hour line rotation surface changes correlation setting of directions through your motion. So in that track communications, it's going to travel out, gone, but still there. So in position locations, let's say you get an emotional track, right? You're an emotional track. Okay, so line center interference, 15,000 line sending line interference frames per second. Travel calculation line center locations. So you got indication lines of 0 lines, travel line calculating settings. Let's go into 1 line, 7 locations. Let's go into 2 securing lines. Let's go into 3 line rotation, center line direct location system travels. Okay. So that indicates lines of 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, that's a 4 line rotation in locations, right? All through 0s and 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s, all through your thoughts. So now you got 15,000 lines per frame. Okay, 15,000 lines per frame. Now each position location has 1 unit that circular lines its rotation system that correlates line centers, light signature patterns, line communications to your zones of operation. Okay, now in direct signal, it gets complicated. Now in direct signal line interference, if you change the wave line center and set light condition your thought patterns, what does that do through directions? It changes its location, right? Which is offline. Offline. Okay, that's offline now because you change your thought. You got 42 streamline interference of 15,000 frames per second. 15,000 frames per second on 0 to 4. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? If anything is out of order, the 0, the 1, the 2, the 3, and the 4 sets lines of zero gravity lines of density communication setting and center calculation. Okay? Complicated, isn't it? Right? So now you understand what you're creating now. You're setting up position, location, holographic, and line settings through thoughts. Your images, your visions, your cortex streams are turning into holographic locations of set locations. Okay? And this is what happens if you change your thoughts. And negative cycle. And if it creates line center line interference, we take the 0 line rotations, we take the 1 line, we take the 2 line, we take the 3 line, and we take the 4 line. It creates anomaly line of shift line in position of dark matter, dark round, dark correlation setting, direct signal location of black hole. It becomes a black hole, which is black because it's creating its own anomaly of its own structure, of its own design. But it's not going forward. It's going back in set location of travel settings. This is what happens when you get in negative cyclic communication setting directions. Okay? You don't want to create a face recognition lines and alteration lines set locations of a state. Not your speed line stream location system. Especially when you're going through 15,000 frames per second. Okay? So paying attention is extremely important here to set location of your systems. Know exactly what you're doing through your perimeters and parameter lines. You get up in the morning, you put your perimeters, your force fields, your energy fields, location setting, direct system. Whatever you do with your calculation, doesn't matter. You do the same routine. There is a routine through the avatar. Okay? Force fields and energy fields. Basic understanding. Anything else that you don't do through force fields and energy fields brings stranger energy in set locations to your anomalies of space and time through your line signal of the now set locations. All timelines all at once in direct set locations of a black hole. Okay? So, like I said, black becomes white line, but you have to truly understand that you can create it because that's what you're perceiving. And it strengthens the mind, but it goes into the backline set location system. I did a very powerful video on what dark matter is. Dark matter is created through you, through your thoughts of confusion. See, that's the thing you don't understand, how the communications of the force of the recognition line calculations that continue and works inside location of your mind and navigation. Okay? So that's why it's mostly important to understand, especially when you're going through 15,000 frames per second through the acceleration of the mind or anything faster in your set allocation system, is to keep yourself positive in all allocation. Okay? So align with the moon, then channel through the sun and operation. Yeah, but see, you're always working with projections of the sun and the moon, but they're always working together. So you really can't separate the sun and the moon because it's always in a dimensional or solar sail. See, the thing is, you have to understand whatever you say, you have to understand how it works. So it's truly understanding that. To really understand you more is understand you see yourself as set locations of a hologram. If you see yourself as a hologram, you're good to go. Because then you understand everything around you is a hologram. But if you don't see yourself as a hologram, you're not good to go. Right? So you have to understand everything around you first. So the only way to do that is master you inside first. Okay? Boom. Okay? So bracket communication line centers have 0 lines instead of locations, right? The center position. Okay? Center position, center position, center position, center position, all in center position. So what am I looking at? Does it look like all center positions to you? It doesn't, does it? But it is. You know where the center position is coming from? Here. Above and below is in the center. So the one thing when you're looking at things is look at this. What's above and what's below, but understand that everything is in the center of its own operation, of its own intelligence, of its own set location of the system. Okay? You're always in that set locations. That's how you see things in center position. So this is your avatar. Flying position locations. Okay? Setting position, center. Setting positions, center. Setting positions, center. Setting positions, center. Setting positions, center. Okay? Always the center of everything. A space in between. Okay? Now, once you understand that, it becomes friends with you and it comes out and communicates with you through its own light, of its own dimension, of its own space, of its own time. Okay? It communicates with you. It wants to communicate with you. It's creating its own design. And you have to understand what it is because they're communicating with you. They communicate through you through travel. When you look at the atmosphere and line streaming and line position location and anything that calculation line setting, they're creating designs for you to understand through communication. That's the only way you can understand anything in that setting. Right? Reach the center position locations, and then they come out and communicate with you. See, they come out. They communicate you and show you what they can do through their own design location. Look at that. 2 of these are communicating with each other now. Look what they created. Let's get another position location, line settings. Comes out. Center position. Let's go in this setting. Whoa, look at that. All right. Everything has its own structure of its own communication, of its own design, guys. So once you understand that, you have to understand, use it as an inner child. It's like, hey, how's it going? How you doing? Right? And it's weaving, it's moving, it's doing this and doing that, but you're still communicating. So that's what you have to understand, how this all works. You're in the ground lines. Operation, that's you, right? And you're scanning line set locations. Here's a cloud. Here's a cloud radiation location system, right? So in that cell lines, you're in this center position, right? So if it recognizes you, it comes out. Hello. Automatically scans you through the grounds, through the centers, and 3 atmospheres of where you are in set location. Now, once it understands you in set location system, you put your fields up. Okay? And the intelligence will put its fields up in the set location. Okay? Now, once it understands that, you're magnetic to each other through communication of telepathy, of telekinesis. Now you're connected to each other, right? And then position, woo, look at that, I'm over here. Whoa, back over here, look at that, woo. See, traveling, right? Getting to know you. What is it doing as it's creating? It's creating its own structure, its own design. See the moon? See the eye? See the mouth? See the eye? See the mouth? The moon. It's creating a moon. Whoa. Okay? That's how you communicate with intelligence applications. Okay? Pretty wild, eh? And there's no thinking when I do these things because I communicate with the intelligence of its design, guys. Okay? So that's what you guys have to get information in so you don't get confused with your application system when you're coming into that line calculations of its anomaly. Okay? So pay attention to that. Yeah, reset the chat glitches. It's applications. Okay? So that's what it's all about. That's the way you'll start understanding more levels of you. Right? Being playful, being giddy, being happy, being content, being positive, loving yourself, love what you're doing, love what you're drawing, love what you're structuring, love what you're seeing, have fun with it, and it has fun with you. Okay? So what do you think about that? Isn't that amazing? It's incredible, isn't it? Right? Formulas and equation is just a structure of guidance, guys. But the real fun comes into is once you understand the communications of you inside first and all levels. And once you get into that application system, then you understand the space in between and everything is application to its own intelligence. That's why you can't see these things. Okay? To understand that, you won't understand that. And once you don't understand that, you will understand that. There's no thinking in seeing. There's no thinking in hearing. There's no thinking in any way aligns applications of communication. Okay? You have to get in mind adaptation of centerline calculation setting, just being now, being there. You're all everywhere all at once. Because it wants to communicate with you. It wants to show you what it can create of its own application. Right? Isn't it amazing, though, having fun with your system? So you get 12 line cycles or set application of your Stargate lines, your star length, star panels, line rotation, center interference, try to calculate the stream location system. So we're going to allocate the stream lines. We're going to change the higher self line stream locations to your sun lines and your moons. This is going to adaptate line interference and put you in more position location in your mortality since the location of travel lines and location of your system. So this is going to put a transducer line stream in line rotation, position location, how you see yourself through plasma, light record time, sequence location, your base record locations, time. Changing communication line stream in position location to higher level set location setting. So generalized space-time line calculation setting has fully emerged in your 12 line signatures and position location of face recognition. Okay. So we come into formation line streams and patterns. We come into program set location settings, father communications, other communications, be in the center, coming into one. Stay tuned for more. Okay. All right. See you in 5. Adios.